So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, based on the time zones you all are coming from. So before we start with the session, can you all please give me a quick information if you all can see my screen and hear me loud and clear as well? Great. Thank you for the confirmation, everyone. My name is Neeraj Kheria, and I've been working in this IT industry for more than 13 years now. So before we get started, let me quickly introduce our Edureka Masterclass community with you all. So this community of masterclasses was started back in 2019. And since then, we have been closing into more than 33,000 members so far. And in these masterclasses, we conduct multiple webinars and live events on different topics, including blockchain, IoT, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, and multiple front-end and back-end development technologies. And the best part about these webinars are they are absolutely free of cost, and they are again open for anyone to join to increase their knowledge on the skill set that is required for getting into any industry verticals. So let's start with a discussion on Power BI. So today we have gathered for a discussion on Power BI, where we are going to discuss on what exactly Power BI is as a part of one of the main tools offered for data visualization part. And then we are going to discuss on how exactly it is structured in helping us to visualize data. And then we are going, if time allows, then we are going to see a small hands-on as well. So Power BI, as you know, it is one of the most popular BI tools, BI as in business intelligence tool. When you say BI, again, when you say BI, it simply means that we are using the platform for getting insight from the given set of data set. So basically, if we have any data, again, if we don't make sense out of the data, then that data is going to be useless for us. And to make sense, to make sure that we do get the best possible insight so that we can allow the stakeholders to take meaningful and again, we can say good actions, then we can use this concept of BI for any data set. And again, these are one of the most popular platforms, just like we have Tableau, we have Power BI, and they allow us to get the best return on the investment for even when we have procured data from any different sources. So why Power BI? So Power BI again has the machine learning integrated. It also is offered for different devices, not just for desktop. And again, it offers the advanced analytics, including the automated analysis that we can perform. And then here we have the Cordana integration available. Although it is optional, if you want, we can integrate that. And we also have multiple APIs available for integration with other platforms as well. And then we have for the customization part here, we can use it for customizing any specific tools that we have. Now we have discussed on again, there are there are different even components of Power BI itself, as you already are aware on that fact. So without ado, suppose again in terms of the building blocks, you already are aware of this fact here. So without ado, you can go ahead and navigate to the Power BI platform itself. So Power BI is offered as a desktop application, which is applicable only for Windows. But again, in case you don't have the access to Windows, still we can use Power BI service. So using Power BI service, we can access Power BI, we can say complete functionality by using the cloud-based dashboard being offered here. So, but again, if we want to download Power BI locally, then we can do that by using this link here for Power BI desktop. So Power BI can be offered for both, can be used from Windows desktop, but again, the local version cannot be installed on Mac systems. It is offered only for Windows-based platform. And again, it's like a community tool available. There is no licensing involved here. If you're using Windows, we can go ahead and download this software locally. And once we, again, if you want to make use of Power BI service as a part of the online platform, then here we can also look for this link where we have Power BI service, where we can simply sign into Power BI service, and then we will be able to have the access to the platform. So here we can make use of Power BI service. If we don't have the access to a Windows system, then we can make use of this link. I have shared the link with you all. And once we log in, then this is going to be the screen for Power BI. Although Power BI Desktop has a slightly different version and than what we have in Power BI Service, but the actual application is more or less the same. So if you want to get started with Power BI, we have to click on this link here which says Create. And then under Create, we can choose the data set. If you want to use in terms of we can say if you want to work on multiple data sets, so here we can click on data sets. If you want to add, here we can see data set for the reports that has already been published to Power BI dashboard. We can simply see that. And if we want to work on our own, then we can simply include the other components as well. Just a moment. So if you want, we can upload our own data set in the format of Excel sheet or even in some other formats. And if we want to include our, we can say if we want to upload our Excel file here, if we want to integrate with this with any other, we can say dashboards, then we can also do that. So let's see how we can upload our, not in Power BI service, we cannot upload the Excel file directly, but we can copy and paste the data that we have the access to. So let's do that. Let's copy and paste. So for that, we can click on create. Here we can paste or manually enter the data set. So we already have the access to one global superstore that we are going to make use of. All right, so now once we have logged in, so here we can manually paste the data set. So we already have the access to one global superstore data set where we have data for almost for our dummy store, where we have data for their shipment, for their products, for different categories, and so on. And that is what we are going to make use of. So this is the data that we have the access to. So as you can see here, we have the access to these data set. As we can see here we have order ID, order date, shipment mode, customer ID. Then we have for segment, city, state, country, postal code, market, region. Then we have the access to the category, subcategory, product name. So these are again different data sets available. Now, if you want to make use of it, we can select all and we can go ahead and paste this in our data set here. So again, this entire data set is simply going to be inserted here. Just a moment. All right, so here, as you can see, if you want to make use of the first one has the row as well. So again, we can simply go ahead and define this. So here we have the shipment mode, customer ID defined. If you want to make use of it as a part of our global superstore, or suppose we name the table name as suppose orders only, orders. And here we can click on auto create report if you want to generate the report out of it automatically, or we want to create a blank report and we want to generate the reports manually, then we can click on create a blank report. So using a blank report, only the data pointers are going to be imported, and then we can start working on the report generation one by one. How different it is from Excel? Not different here. Again, we simply have to copy and paste. That's it. In Power BI Desktop, we can import the entire data set, or we can go ahead and manually copy and paste it. That's how it works. So now this is the now once we import the entire data set here, so again we will be able to get this kind of blank report available. And now here we have the screens available here. And I got if you want to customize this, we can simply go ahead and customize report as and when required. So this is going to be the home screen where in the left sidebar, we are looking at all the common entities for Power BI. In the central screen, we can see the actual report builder. That means this is going to be the canvas where we can import our multiple data pointers. And here we have all the filters that we can apply. And towards the right corner, we can see the table which contains all the data pointers that we have currently imported. So we have defined the table name as orders. And again, we can see different pointers being listed here in terms of category, city, country, and discount and market sets. All right. Now, if you want to start generating reports here, so we can pick any data pointers here. For example, let's say here we want to visualize the performance in terms of profit, and we want to plot this against the order date. Now, the main problem statement for the company is the company needs to analyze the performance in terms of profit it has generated for the last 4 years. For example, here we can see currently the data is for last 4 years only. So as you can see here, currently we have data set for the profit distribution for last 4 years for 2012, 13, and then we have 14, and then we have for 11. So these are default data pointers. Now we can see here we have now based on this graph, now here we have different type of visualizations that we can go for. For the data that we are going to choose here, we can go for the stat column charts or stack row charts here. We can go for the bar graph. We can go now if you want to convert this to a simple graph chart here, a line graph. So we can click on the line graph and we can see here we have the graphical representation of the same data that we have currently worked on. All right. Now here we have now in case we don't want to use it, so here we can simply go ahead and Delete that. Now here, based on this graph, we can see everything is working fine, correct? If you notice this, that based on this graph, everything seems to be working fine. No issues are there, correct? But if the company wants to dive deeper, the company needs to understand how the profit has been distributed among different, yeah, we can say among a given time span, how the profit has been distributed among, we can say in 2012, 2013, and 14. The company needs to have a better insight on that. So for getting that insight, we have to go ahead and bifurcate the current data pointers. For example, here we have order date, right? So currently we are looking at the order date, and in this data set, we have the data for year, quarter, month, and day. Now here we don't want to include the year as a data set. We can simply go ahead and close here. So now we can see data has been distributed. The graph is now being plotted for the quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, and quarter four here. Now, if you don't want to focus this on a quarter basis, now we can segregate this based on the month basis. Now the picture is completely different, right? Now we are seeing a different picture altogether. So we can see now how the profit has been distributed over the year. So we can see till now we see a strong spike from April to May, as you can see in the May. But again, we can say a strong, we can say downfall from June month till July. So again, this may be like the off season for the company. And again, we see a steep increase in profits from August onwards. And again, this is maintained by the end of the year as well. So again, this is again a hidden insight that we have derived from this particular graph, right? Again, if you want to create separate graphs, for example, if you want to have separate graphs for different year, so basically here we can apply now what we can do is, if you want to create separate graphs for different year, now currently we are seeing we can say one graph for 1 year. For example, now we can define this graph. Let's say we can filter. Okay, we want this graph to be defined only for, suppose this one. If you want to apply filters, then here we can see here we have filters for order date. If you want to apply the filter, okay, for this particular year, we want to have the data set where we can define it should be in a given year, or we can say here we want to add data pointers for year. So we can simply drag and drop here, and then we can add the year as a filter. We can here suppose as a filter. Now we can drop it as a part of year here. Now we want to showcase this for one specific year only. For example, here we want to show this only for 2015. We can do that. So same way we can create different graphs. For example, we can create another copy. We can create another copy. We can create another copy. So now this one can be for, now this is for 2015. This one here we can again segregate it as a filter. Suppose here we want to apply this for, now basically here we want to change the filtering here. So here we can choose it for 2012, not for 15. We can set this for 14, and this one can be set for 13. So basically, we can plot different graphs for all the performance of different years. We can do that, or we can combine all the graphs into a single graph as well as a part of legend. So what we can do, if the company wants to have just a single graph where it can visualize the performance in terms of profit for each and every year, so we can create a single graph. So what we can do is we can create a new page. So we can create as many pages as you want by choosing the pagination option available at the bottom. We can do that. And here, for example, suppose here we want to add data set. For example, here again we can choose profit. We can choose the profit at year. And suppose here we want to bifurcate this in terms of the graph. So here again choose line graph. Here we don't want to include year as a data pointer. We don't want to include month, but now we want to visualize year as a part of legend. So here we can simply drag and drop year into the legend field. Now we can see we have a single graph, and now we have multiple years being plotted as different, we can say different year pointers. And again, they all have been automatically segregated by using different color scheme. Whatever color scheme we are using for the project, we can simply segregate that. Let's suppose here we want to add multiple graphs, so we can simply shrink the size. For example, in one page, we want to also add the performance of the company in terms of the sales figures generated in terms of segments. So here we can choose sales, and here we have segments, right? And now we can simply go ahead and choose any type of graph that is going to be suitable for us. For example, here we can use donut. So now we can add donuts here, right? And then we can define what kind of pointers, what kind of filters you want to apply for donut. So currently what we're looking at, we are looking for profit by month and year, and here we have sales by segment. Let's say we don't want to use sales. We want to, again, simply see the profit distribution in terms of different segments. So here we have profit by month and year, we have profit by segment. If you want to see the profit for different shipment modes, profit recorded on different shipment modes. So here we have a line graph here, profit by different shipment modes, and we can say whatever we have recorded. If you want to even add a gauge as well, for example, we want to add a target value that we may have achieved in a given year. For example, here we want to add something as a gauge here. So we can simply add a gauge. And now we want to see how much profit we have incurred in terms of last year. So here we have the target, and the target value, we can simply define the profit that we may have recorded in a given year as a part of the target profit. But again, in that case, we need to have that KPI defined. Then only we can add that KPI as a part of the value here. That is how it is going to work. So for example, suppose if we want to export the visual that we defined here, for example, let's say we want to export any other visual here. So right, so we can choose any visual. For example, we want to include this graph, right? So, or we want to include this graph here, we want to include this graph here. So whatever graph we want to include, so we can choose that. And again, here, whenever we are going to make use of a graph here we have the options such as copy as visual, right? So as you can see here, we have the access to copy the current graph as a visual. And now if you want to, once we are done copying it, we can go ahead and use it anywhere. Again, this is going to be copied and this is going to be saved as a visual, and then we can simply go ahead and use it in the mails or PPTs or anywhere we want. And even if we want to export selective data set, for example, suppose here we have data pointers for, suppose here we have for profit by shipment mode. Now we want to export this data locally. We can go ahead and click on export data, and only the data pointers which is used for generating this kind of visual, it is going to be exported in the format we choose, and then we will be able to use the data separately, especially useful in the custom measure. Once we are done working on this one, so you can simply go ahead and save the entire report as well. We can go ahead and save it. If you want to publish this onto web, or we want to export this to PDF as well, we can also do that. We can apply the filters that can be applicable for all the reports. Now, basically, but now this is a default feature offered by Power BI. So whenever we are going to create an interactive dashboard, so whatever data pointers we are going to choose, the other reports are going to respond accordingly. For example, suppose currently we are looking for consumer segment, right? Now here we have profit by month and year. So whenever we are going to choose consumer, so obviously the profit by month and year is going to be focused on the consumer segment only. That means right now we are looking at the graph only for the consumer segment in terms of profit by month and year. Same way for profit by shipment mode, we are looking at data pointers only for consumer segment. We are looking for profit only for we can say only based on the consumers, or based on the, again, the category that we have chosen here, based on the category that we have chosen. So again, this is what we can perform in terms of the values being defined here. So we can choose any kind of visual here. And again, suppose that here we want to add buttons. We also have the powerful Q&A engine also offered by Power BI as well, that we are going to look at how exactly we can customize this entire Q&A engine to allow anyone to have a quick insight on the current data set. For example, suppose here we want to ask, here if someone asks, again, suppose profit by different segments in a map. So as you can see here, we have simply asked a question. Here we simply ask a question here, and then here we can see the map has automatically been generated, right? So again, whatever questions any consumer is going to be asked, again, this is going to be delivered by the Q&A session itself that we can also embed. Once we are done once we are done working on this report here, we can go ahead and export, and again, we will be able to get this report, and plus we will be able to generate a QR report. We can even embed this to any other platform we want, depending upon how exactly we are going to configure that. Thank you so much for joining, everyone, and have a great day ahead. Take care. Bye bye.